Have you ever wondered why the mind, this intangible, invisible space, is the center of all our suffering and also our freedom? It seems simple, right? But what if I told you that, to find true peace, everything starts and ends in our mind? Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo realized this in a brutally clear way, as she searched for something beyond the expectations and standards of society. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo, a woman who dedicated her life to exploring the depths of the human mind, made a choice that many would consider radical. In the 1970s, at the age of 21, she traveled to the Himalayas, not just as a pilgrim, but as a seeker of truth. She was searching for something that couldn't be found in conventional doctrines, temples, or houses, but in something much closer to us, our own minds. Deep down, she knew that all wisdom about life and human suffering starts and ends with the mind. As she herself says, the mind is the center of all the Buddha's teachings. It starts with the mind, it ends with the mind. The mind is everything. It is through it that we know the world and ourselves. But paradoxically, the mind is also the source of all our suffering. So why then do we spend so much time and energy searching for answers outside of ourselves, when everything we need is right inside, waiting to be discovered? From the very beginning of her journey, Jetsunma asked herself, how can I know something that's outside of me, if everything I know passes through the filter of my mind? The sky, the trees, the people, even our everyday situations, everything we experience is mediated by the mind. Our eyes capture images, our ears hear sounds, but it is the mind that interprets all of this. She challenges us to reflect. Have you ever stopped to think about what the mind really is? Or are you just living in it, never truly looking at it? We spend our lives caring for our bodies, for our environments. But what about our minds? How often do we spend time cleaning and organizing our inner house? Sometimes our minds become a pile of emotional garbage, accumulating fears, traumas, hurts, and thought patterns that no longer serve us. Jetsunma shares a powerful metaphor about this. Just like in our physical house where we throw away the trash and open the windows to let fresh air in, our mind needs a similar process. Yet many times we let the clutter pile up until it becomes impossible to make room for something new, something true. But the first thing we need to do is stop and look at this pile of mental trash. This is what she invites us to do. However, true transformation begins when we manage to see beyond this clutter, when we stop adding more and more theories and start cleaning what's inside of us. It's not enough to simply beautify the mind with nice words or spiritual concepts. We must first empty it, understand what we truly are, and then realize the true nature of the mind. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo teaches us that suffering doesn't come from what we think or feel, but from the fact that we believe we are those thoughts and feelings. Just like an audience member in a cinema, the mind presents us with projected images, emotions, fears, desires, but these projections are not who we are. They are simply images that arise and disappear. True freedom begins when we stop identifying with those images and start to perceive the light behind them. True transformation of the mind doesn't lie in accumulating more knowledge or more spiritual practices. It lies in stopping identifying with everything that passes through our awareness. Jetsunma invites us to pause and look at our true nature. The mind is like the sky, vast, peaceful, infinite. The clouds, representing thoughts and feelings, may obscure that sky, but behind them peace and clarity are already present. When we begin to perceive this difference between being lost in the storm and simply observing the storm from the outside, we begin to understand what it truly means to be free. What if the greatest transformation of your life could only be found in the silence that terrifies you? Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's path was never going to be easy. It's easy to romanticize the idea of finding peace in nature, but what if the peace you're seeking demands facing the very things you fear most? Your own mind, your deepest loneliness, your unresolved pain. After years of studying and practicing, Jetsunma made a bold decision to meditate in complete isolation inside a small cave in the Himalayas for a period of 12 years. She wasn't running away from the world. She was confronting it, but from within. The solitude was not a retreat from life. It was a challenge to face life in its rawest form. To meditate in such isolation is, in many ways, to confront the depths of your own inner world. There are no distractions, no other voices. It's just you and your mind, stripped down to its most primal state. Imagine the magnitude of that silence. What happens when you are left alone with your own thoughts, without the comforting noise of everyday life to drown them out? We often seek distractions. The noise of daily life, the busyness of the world, the constant stimulation. We run from our own minds because, deep down, we fear what we might find there. But Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo teaches us a difficult truth. True self-understanding comes from sitting in that silence, from being fully present in it. When we avoid the quiet, we avoid the deepest parts of ourselves. And when we avoid those parts, we continue to carry unresolved pain, buried emotions, and unexamined fears with us, often without even realizing it. In her time in the cave, Jetsunma was faced with the truth. There was no escape from herself. It was there, in the vastness of the mountains, that she truly confronted the mind. There were no distractions to keep her busy, no one to impress, no one to please, no expectations except those she placed on herself. She saw her thoughts as they were, fleeting, impermanent, and often destructive. She saw the ways in which her emotions controlled her. Anger, fear, doubt. They were all like clouds passing through the sky of her mind. But it wasn't until she learned to let them pass without clinging to them that the true power of meditation revealed itself. The challenge of solitude isn't about physical isolation. It's about being alone with your own thoughts, your own emotions, and realizing that you are not those things. Jetsunma's time in the cave is a profound metaphor for our lives. We may not all live in a cave, but we are often caught in our own mental prisons. We allow our minds to control us. We let the storms of anger, fear, and sorrow dictate our actions and reactions. But the truth is, we are not those storms. We are the sky. In the stillness of that cave, Jetsunma found the clarity she had been seeking all along. That true peace comes from not identifying with our thoughts and emotions. They come and go, like clouds in the sky. But the mind, in its purest form, is vast and still. The real challenge is to sit with the discomfort, to sit with the noise of the mind without trying to escape it. As she sat in that cave, she learned to observe the storms of her own mind, without becoming swept away by them. In doing so, she found a deeper, more enduring peace, a peace that wasn't dependent on external circumstances, but on her own ability to be present with whatever arose, without judgment or attachment. Solitude isn't something we should fear. It is, in fact, one of the most profound paths to inner transformation. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo teaches us that when we sit with ourselves in the silence, without running away, we begin to see the truth of our own minds. The next time you find yourself alone with your thoughts, instead of running from them, try to sit in that silence. Don't fill it with distractions. Don't try to escape it. Instead, just observe what arises. Watch the clouds pass by. And remember, you are not the clouds. You are the sky. What if the greatest illusion you've been carrying your whole life is the one you call yourself? The idea of self, the person we think we are, seems so real, doesn't it? We've spent years building it, protecting it, and living through it. But what if everything you know about yourself is just an illusion, a story you've been telling yourself? Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's journey is a powerful reminder that, to reach true freedom, we must first confront the most elusive illusion of all, the ego. Jetsunma's teachings on the mind are inseparable from her reflections on the ego. The mind, as she explains, is the source of all our experience, yet it is not a single stable entity. It is fluid, ever-changing, a network of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. But one of the biggest obstacles we face is the construction of the ego, the false sense of self that we identify with. The ego is like a mask, created from layers of experiences, societal expectations, desires, fears, and insecurities. It makes us believe we are separate from others, that we are distinct individual entities. But this ego is not the true self. It is simply a protective shell, an illusion that keeps us from seeing who we really are. Jetsunma teaches us that in order to truly understand the mind, we must first see through the ego. She urges us to question everything we believe about ourselves, to strip away the layers of identity we've clung to for so long. This process can be painful because it requires us to let go of the very thing that we think defines us. When Jetsunma talks about the ego, she isn't just referring to the arrogant, self-centered part of us that we often criticize. The ego can also be more subtle, an identity that seeks validation, approval, and a sense of worth through external sources. It's the part of us that attaches to labels, roles, and definitions. I am a mother, I am a teacher, I am successful, I am a failure. The problem is we become so attached to these labels that we forget who we truly are beyond them. We identify with our thoughts and feelings, believing that they define us. But Jetsunma asks us to look deeper. What happens if you strip away all of those labels? Who are you when you stop identifying with everything the world has told you about yourself? This is not an intellectual exercise. It's a deep, existential inquiry. The ego is not simply something we can get rid of. It's something we need to see through. And the path to seeing through the ego is through self-awareness, presence, and stillness. Jetsunma shares a profound insight. The ego is not who you truly are. It is an armor built from fear. Think about it. The ego's entire purpose is to protect us from the vulnerability of truly seeing ourselves, of facing our fears and weaknesses. It keeps us safe. At least that's what we believe. But the more we cling to it, the more we trap ourselves in a prison of illusion. Jetsunma's teachings reveal that the ego is like a shield we hold up against the world, but it's also the thing that keeps us separate from others. It creates division, fosters isolation, and prevents us from experiencing genuine connection. When we let go of the ego, even momentarily, we begin to see the truth. We are not separate. We are part of something much greater than ourselves. To be truly free, we must stop identifying with the ego. But freedom doesn't mean the ego disappears completely. It means we stop letting it control our lives. Instead of being driven by fear, pride, and insecurity, we can start to live from a place of authenticity, from the deep understanding that we are more than just our thoughts, our roles, or our emotions. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo teaches us that the greatest liberation comes when we stop believing in the illusion of the self. The ego is not the real you. It's a mask you've been wearing to survive in the world. But once you begin to see beyond the ego, you start to uncover the vastness of your true nature. The ego will always be there, lurking in the background, but it no longer has to define you. The true self is not an identity or a label. It is the awareness that sees through the ego, the consciousness that recognizes itself beyond the stories we tell. The next time you feel caught in the grip of your ego, when you feel afraid, proud, insecure, or defensive, ask yourself, who am I without these stories? Who am I beyond this ego? In that moment of inquiry, you may just find that the freedom you seek has been waiting for you all along. What if the one thing you've been clinging to, the need for control, was the very thing preventing you from experiencing true freedom? We live in a world obsessed with control. We plan, we strategize, we organize. We try to make things certain, stable, predictable. But what if all of this is just a defense against the most profound truth of all? Nothing is permanent, and nothing can be controlled. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's journey teaches us that the greatest freedom comes when we let go of the need to control, and instead, embrace the impermanence of life. One of the most striking aspects of Jetsunma's teachings is her focus on impermanence. In her experience, the mind and the ego are constantly trying to grasp onto things, ideas, people, success, comfort, as if they were permanent, as if they could somehow be held onto forever. But the truth is that everything is in a state of flux. This is one of the central principles in Buddhist philosophy. Everything changes. Life is impermanent. We change. The world around us changes. People come and go. Relationships evolve. Situations shift. Yet despite knowing this, we still cling to the illusion of control, as if we could somehow keep things the same. or make life fit into a mold we've created in our minds. Jetsunma, during her time meditating in the cave, was confronted with this truth on a daily basis. There was no way to control the weather, no way to prevent the seasons from changing, no way to stop time. She had to come to terms with the reality that the more she tried to control, the more she suffered. The more we try to hold on to things, the more we are bound to experience loss. We all have our ways of dealing with impermanence. Some of us deny it, pretending that we can hold on to things forever. Others try to numb themselves to it, distracting themselves with busyness and consumption. But the truth remains. Nothing is stable. What would happen if we let go of the need to control? What if we embrace the fact that everything, our lives, our relationships, our possessions, are temporary? How would our lives change if we could accept that the only constant is change itself? Jetsunma's path teaches us that the fear of impermanence is really the fear of uncertainty. We are afraid to let go because we don't trust life to unfold as it should. We try to plan everything, arrange it all in a neat, tidy package, but life cannot be planned. It will unfold in ways we cannot predict, and the more we try to control it, the more we lose sight of the beauty and freedom that lies in surrendering to it. During her years of meditation, Jetsunma came to understand something that radically shifted her perspective. The more we resist impermanence, the more we suffer. At first, this truth was difficult to accept. Letting go of control felt like stepping into the unknown, into chaos. But slowly, through her practice, Jetsunma realized that true peace arises not from control, but from surrendering to the flow of life as it is. When we resist change, we suffer. When we accept it, we find freedom. The impermanence of life is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. When we truly see that everything is fleeting, we begin to experience life more fully. We can love more deeply, hold things more lightly, and appreciate the beauty of the present moment without trying to cling to it. Jetsunma often speaks of how, when we resist the natural flow of life, we create friction. The mind struggles to control, the ego tries to dictate what should happen, and in that struggle we find pain. But when we let go, we allow the energy of life to move through us, instead of against us. This is the paradox. When we stop trying to control, we open ourselves to a freedom we never knew was possible. The need for control is deeply ingrained in all of us. We are taught to strive, to organize, to make things happen. But Jetsunma shows us that, in reality, the more we try to control, the more we close ourselves off from life's flow. True freedom, she teaches, comes when we accept the impermanence of everything. The moment we let go of the illusion of control, we open ourselves to the unfolding of life as it is, beautiful, unpredictable, and constantly changing. The next time you feel the grip of control tightening, ask yourself, what would happen if I just let go? What if, instead of trying to force things to fit, you allowed them to unfold in their own time, in their own way? When we stop resisting, we finally make room for peace. What if the key to unlocking your true potential isn't in trying harder, but in softening your heart? In a world that tells us to push harder, achieve more, and be stronger, what if the real path to transformation lies in embracing something gentler, something as subtle and powerful as compassion? Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's journey shows us that the road to inner freedom is not paved with force, but with self-discipline and an open heart. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's spiritual journey, marked by years of meditation in a Himalayan cave, was not just about finding peace through isolation. It was about transforming the mind from the inside out. The true essence of her transformation came from the cultivation of two essential qualities: self-discipline and compassion. While many of us might see self-discipline as harsh or restrictive, Jetsunma shows us that it's the foundation for creating the inner space necessary for compassion to flourish. It's through the disciplined practice of meditation, reflection, and mindfulness that we begin to unearth the heart of who we truly are. But discipline alone is not enough. True transformation also requires compassion. Compassion for ourselves, for the process, and for others. Jetsunma's journey teaches us that without compassion, self-discipline becomes empty and mechanical. Without discipline, compassion becomes untethered and unfocused. The real work of transformation, Jetsunma teaches, begins when we turn inward. Most of us spend our lives focused on external circumstances, hoping that if we change our environment or situation, we will feel better. But the truth is, external circumstances are beyond our control. True change happens when we begin to examine and reshape the internal landscape of our minds. Self-discipline is the first step. It is the practice of training the mind to focus, to observe without attachment, and to cultivate the space necessary for growth. This isn't about self-punishment or rigid control. It's about creating the mental clarity that allows us to truly see ourselves, without the distractions of the world or the noise of the ego. But there is another equally vital aspect to transformation: compassion. Without compassion, we remain stuck in judgment, fear, and anger. Compassion is the key to unlocking our capacity for love, forgiveness, and understanding, not only for others, but for ourselves as well. Jetsunma's life is a testament to the profound power of self-discipline and compassion in creating inner transformation. Through her years of solitude and intense meditation, she learned to recognize and embrace her flaws, her imperfections, and her humanity. Rather than resisting or suppressing her weaknesses, she met them with compassion. This compassion didn't mean letting herself off the hook. It meant acknowledging the parts of herself that needed healing and giving herself the patience and space to grow. In a society that often values achievement over presence, success over humility, Jetsunma's teachings remind us that true transformation comes not from striving, but from surrendering to the present moment and embracing ourselves fully as we are. Self-discipline is about creating the foundation for change, but compassion is what breathes life into that change. When we practice self-discipline with compassion, we stop trying to force ourselves into someone else's mold. We learn to embrace our authentic selves and recognize that the process of transformation is not linear. It requires patience, understanding, and above all, love. Love for ourselves as we are, and love for the world around us. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's teachings offer us a profound shift in perspective. We don't need to push harder or force our way to transformation. True change begins when we create space for self-reflection, discipline our minds to remain present, and nurture compassion for ourselves and others. As you move through life, remember this: the path to true inner freedom is not through striving, but through softening. Softening the mind, softening the heart, and allowing your true nature to emerge from within. Next time you feel overwhelmed by the demands of the world or by your own internal struggles, pause and ask yourself, am I approaching this with compassion, or am I forcing myself to fit into a mold? When we soften our approach, when we meet ourselves with love, we create the fertile ground for transformation.